So our first row of square knots is just going to be a single knot all the way around, and then we'll do a second row of square knots all the way around as well. And before we do our third row of square knots that circles around, we're going to be adding beads. And then after our third row of square knots, we'll be adding beads again, and then we'll be adding these little chains that is a series of half square knots and square knots and overhand knot. Alright, well, let's get going. Hey there. Alrighty, so now we're going to do snowflake number 3, and this one a little bit kind of a cross between the first two, a little complicated, but I think you'll like it. So again, it's going to be 12 strands of wax linen cut in 15-inch lengths, 1 jump ring, and a lot of 6/0 beads. Alright, so for attaching the cord, let's move that out of the way for now. For attaching the cord to the jump ring, I'm using just a regular lark's head knot. Just like that. Alright, so I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to finish attaching the rest of the cords to the jump ring, and I'll be back in a little bit. Here we have all 12 of the strands attached to the jump ring with the lark's head knot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this whole thing on this vintage pin cushion I have, and I'm going to secure it with 6 pins, and I'm putting the pins in every other lark's head knot just so it holds securely and there's minimal chance of it moving around on me while I'm working. And also the pins will be out of the way so you could actually see what I'm doing. Theoretically. Now you can see what I'm doing. Alright. So row 1 is square knots. And it's just interesting to keep in mind that even though we're going in a circle, it's still a row. It's a circular row. And this square knot is going to be pulled up nice and snug up to the top. I'm not sure if you could hear it in the background. I've got a fan running because it's super hot today. Okay, so the S-shaped square knot, you create the S, put it underneath your core cords with the left hand cord. With the right hand cord, you come up from under, across the top and down the other side. Pull it up snug, and then with the remaining, it's over the top of the right hand cord that's on the left, over the top and back down the remaining loop, and that completes a full knot. Yeah, it's really important that you make sure that all of your cords are flat and straight, and sometimes they want to get a little twisted when you're turning your piece around, and it's just making sure that you reorient yourself and that your cords are nice and straight coming off of the lark's head knots. And once you complete all the loops, that knot is actually done. Okay, now we're going to do row 2, and on row 2 you could see that there's not a large gap left, and that's just because of the aesthetic that I was going for with this one. So the gap that is left between the knots, because you're taking 2 cords from each knot from the prior row, because this row is offset, and the goal here is to have the knot on the second row to be up as high as possible without putting too much tension on the prior row. And again, when I'm working on subsequent rows from the first row I'll just go in sequence all the way around. But when I'm doing subsequent rows, to help keep balance between the spaces between the knots, I actually turn the piece around and do the knot on the direct opposite side to help to make sure that when I get to the end of the piece that I've got balanced spacing. And if you just do it all from one direction, there's a possibility that you might have over tightened and you run out of space, or you've done it too loosely and it's just looking very odd. So that's why I work it from both sides when I'm doing the subsequent rows, and not just in sequence going in a circle. Alrighty, I'm going to do the one next to it, and then I'm going to jump to the other side. There you go. All right, now what we're going to do is it's time to add the first round of beads, and we'll be adding these to the tying cord from the second row knots. It's just a matter of grabbing the bead with the right size hole for what you're doing. Also remember that the wax linen cord is pretty forgiving. If you, like right now, it's just really hot today and everything's trying to be super soft, so you just give it a bit of a twist it, and that will stiffen it just enough to where you could thread the bead right onto it. Okay, so we're going to continue to do this all the way around. So at this point we're going to fast forward to make this go a little quicker for you. Alrighty, so now we're going to do another row of square knots. And again, we're going to make sure that when we draw the knot up to get it in the right position for the top part of the knot, that we're going to be minimizing the space, but not making it so excessively tight that it deforms our circle for this round of square knots. Okay, so that was row 3, and before we do the next row, we're going to repeat what we just did with the beads. We're going to be adding them to the string, the knotting cord from the previous knot before we go on to our 1, 2, 3, 4th row of beads. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that we can actually still thread our beads safely, and now we're going to fast forward so you don't have to be terribly bored. Alright, here's the last bead for this round. If I find the hole, there it is. And as you noticed, I did drop a few beads. I'll find them later. Okay, now we're actually going to do another row going around 6 square knots again. And this time we're not going to actually pull it as tight, because this is where we're going to start doing a square knot, 8 half square knots, add 2 more beads, a square knot, and an overhand knot. And one of the reasons why in the design I have a square knot here ahead of the column of half square knots is because it just helps hold things together a bit better, especially when you're making this sort of a span. So that actually closes things up. So now we're going to do 8 left hand half square knots, which means we're just going to be bringing our cord from the left underneath our strands, right hand cord under the cord going off to the left, over the top and down the loop. And we're going to repeat that 8 times. And what this is going to do, because it's coming from the left, it's going to cause our spiral to go left. If we wanted the spiral to go the opposite direction, we would be starting the knot from the right. But this is the left hand spiral, so that's why we're starting our knot from the left. So it's 3, 4, and we're just pulling it just firm, not excessively tight. 5, and you'll notice at this point it's wanting to spin on you, so it's okay to let it go ahead and spin and then continue to work the knot the same direction from the left it will continue to do what it's supposed to do. So it's 6, 7, and 8. All right, so now we're going to add 2 beads. Yeah, my fingers are starting to get really sticky from the waxed linen. All right, and now we're going to do a square knot. And as you've noticed at this point, our tying cords are really, really short right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing the overhand knot with the center cords. So they're actually going to go around the tying cords to make up for their being short. And it would help if I actually tied the overhand knot correctly. Let's try this again. Okay, so the overhand knot comes up and around, over the top, back down through the loop created. And if things don't come out right, you just start tugging on the cords until it comes out to the spot where you want it. There you go. That's our first of the knotting chains, and now I'm going to flip to the other side and add the next one and keep repeating. So I'll do this one, I'll do the one next to it, then I'll flip to go that side, and then do the one next to it, flip to go finish up over here. Alright, so now we're down to the last chain section, and you'll see how going back and forth this way really does help in keeping balance and to make sure that you're going to be evenly distributed when you come to the final section. So square knot, and then we're going to do 8 half square knots, left side, left hand twist. Last of the overhand knots. Again, the center cords over the top of the tying cord, around the back, over the top, and down the loop. Again, if it looks a little strange, just keep pulling each cord to tighten it up to make it come out. So there you have it. So we're going to take out our pins, then we're going to trim our excess and add our hanger. So that looks pretty good. Okay, for our excess, we're going to leave roughly 1/2 inch length on our cord. Then we're going to put our hanger on it when we're finished trimming these. Okay, so if we go back to the original example, so there you have it. So this is snowflake number 3, and you can see that there are slight differences, but that's to be expected. I mean, the differences occur because, you know, the nature of the natural cord, your mood, how you're feeling. Is it so hot outside that you're about to die? No, I'm kidding. It's not that hot out there, but it's hot enough. Anyway, so yeah, occasionally there will be slight differences, and you could actually splay your little trimmed ends to give more of the, you know, snowflake effect. So now we're going to add the hanging cord. So we just take a 6-inch piece of our cord, fold it in half, and the spot that I was using to attach it to is right here, right above this last square knot coming from the circle. And it doesn't matter which one you choose, just choose whichever one you want it to be. And so you flip it to the back, tie a 1/2 square knot, pull it really tight, go back to your front, and try to ease that bit of cord up as tight as possible to your square knot to minimize the exposure on the front. Then we're just going to match up the two ends and tie another overhand knot. There we go, we have our hanger. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and that the kits are available on my Etsy page, and there'll be a complete list of the materials that are included in the kits. So this was snowflake number 3. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe and like my videos. Thank you. Bye.